Everybody, this is Eric Schweitzer with the Gamer.com editorial team, and I'm here with news lead and Cal Kestis simp George Foster to talk about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. No one loves Cal as much as me. Cameron
It's true.
Monaghan, amazing actor, handsomest man in the world, carries it all in Survivor.
Not to get too inside baseball here, but you went and previewed this game in LA and you met Cal Kestis himself.
I did. Yes, he was at the after party, and I ran up like a massive nerd, and he was really nice about it. Just said hello, and then I awkwardly backed off, thinking I'd gone too far.
Did he sign your lightsaber?
He did not. I did not ask, but I should have.
Oh, you blew it. Okay, so I reviewed Jedi Fallen Order when it came out in, what was that, 2019?
Yeah, 2019, I think.
I liked it. It is one of my favorite Star Wars games. I thought it was pretty rough around the edges, very buggy. I'm not sure if those are things they eventually fixed, but at launch it was oof. You would fall through the ground. Stuff would just kind of disappear in front of you a lot. And also I was not a big fan of the way of the level design. There was a lot of backtracking that felt very pointless. But having said that, tell me about Survivor and how it compares to the first one.
So first off, I'll just say I completely agree. I reviewed it for RPG Site back in 2019, and I loved it. Like I was a younger critic, I guess, so I was very positive on it. But looking back on it now, I've replayed it since. It's so janky. Like even now, years later, they've improved it, but it's surprisingly janky from Respawn. You know, like Titanfall 2, like it feels like a masterclass.
Pretty much a perfect game, yeah.
Yeah, and you look back at Fallen Order, it's like, why does everything feel wrong to do besides combat? And thankfully, playing Jedi Survivor, I went in, I was like, right, please don't be janky. And it mostly isn't. It still is a little bit. Like, it's still, you know, it was a pre-launch build. They've still got a month of polishing. I'm sure they're putting the work in. It was still a little bit janky. There was still some frame rate drops. Cal still kind of moves a little weird every now and again, but
yeah, you'll notice that even in this fight that we're looking at right now, there's a lot of kind of just weird like animation cancels where he'll just sort of like that. Like he doesn't really have a lot of momentum. It's just sort of like the animations are great, but they don't all like flow together super well. I don't know. I'm being super nitpicky about a game that's not even out yet. But when I look at it, I'm like, it's not quite right.
No, you're totally right. Like it's one of those things where it's hard to quantify what I mean when I say it's kind of janky. But when you say that, yeah, the animations don't always flow so well. Like they are great. Like especially like the finishing move animations, they're so awesome. But then when you notice them tie into each other, like the dodge, for instance, it's just a little bit off, right? I think that's maybe part of Jedi's DNA now. I don't think that's something they can fix. I think it's better than it was in Fallen Order, but it's still, you know, if that bothered you, well, if it bothered you, I'd say, you know, chill out a little bit. But it's not fully fixed, you know. It's still a little bit janky.
So what's new in this one?
Oh God, it's less of an evolution, and it's more improving on everything Jedi Fallen Order did, right? So it's not. I jumped in, I instantly felt familiar. You know, I was like, okay, this is Jedi through and through. But it's all the little changes that make it like such a better experience. So you were saying about the fast travel, like how getting to places on the map was just a massive pain, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the specific planet. Maybe it's Kashyyyk, but Kashyyyk was just hell to go through. If you had something you wanted to go do, be prepared to just travel the whole map again. Sucked. No one liked it. But they've instantly, like, it honestly feels like Respawn just went, yeah, okay, we heard you. Everything you've complained about, we fixed, you know? Like, there's fast travel now. Like, the map, we only got to play, I think it was four or so hours. And I expected that to be maybe like a cut of a few different worlds. But no, we just got Kobo, which is like the first area in the game.
So everything we're seeing is one world.
Yeah, all in one area.
Is it the first one?
Yeah, it's the first. Well, they said to us there's like a 1 hour I guess like a prologue, I guess, like maybe
Okay.
like a cinematic set piece sort of thing. They didn't
Yeah.
tell us what happens in that, but they said you land on Kobo, like you crash land because you need parts for the Mantis, and then we were kind of guided through the main story bit, like right, make sure you see these things, but they're like you can go off and explore if you want to, and some of the stuff that I found out is in Kobo that I can't talk about just paints it as like a massive, massive world, like maybe two or
It
three.
looks big, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like maybe two or three of Fallen Order's worlds put together,
Okay.
and it's like all the stuff there. That's another thing they've improved on. Looking back at Fallen Order, I kind of think there wasn't really any side quests worth doing. Like you could go and explore,
Right.
and you could find like ponchos, I guess,
Yeah.
if you have no fashion taste and you just want to collect stuff for the sake of it, you could go get them. But besides the like crashed Star Destroyer on, I think Zepho. I can't remember. But I think it's Zepho. Besides that, there was nothing I can remember that was worth doing that wasn't the main story. And then this Respawn's gone, okay, fine. We've got these new mission types called rumors. We've got customization elements that are like worth a damn. We've got like perks for you to find. We've got so much. Like I think right now you'll see this is something I missed. But I imagine right now they'll give you a perk. Yeah, so you'll get something for exploring now, which is so much better.
Talk about the different stances, because we just saw at one of the meditation points how you sort of have like two stances and then you can choose which ones you want to use. Is that right?
Yeah, so I was expecting it to be all of them at once, but it's not. It's like the first where you get two of them. We only got to use one of the additional ones, so there's two new ones altogether. There's a dual saber, which is the one we got to use. Oh no, there's three of them altogether. There's blaster and there's crossguard. We didn't get to use those two. Those are like late mid game unlocks. But dual
And you can
saber
only
is
have
so
two
cool.
equipped at a time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not
Okay.
really sure why. I think it's because the D-pad's used up for other stuff like healing and honestly this kind of
Oh.
useless BD visor thing that I never used. But you can only have two. But dual saber is so cool. Like it's very Respawn describes it as like high risk, high reward. So you've got two of them, but you've got very short reach,
Hmm.
uh, and you're much faster, but you take damage a lot easier. It's harder to counter, and it's just like it feels very different from anything we've used before. Like the single blade is just very slow and reliable, and then you've got the double sided, which is good for crowd control, and then dual saber's just awesome. Like it's so fast, and you have this move where you can hold down Y, so you use like a force power. For the other one, it's like an overhead slash. And then for this one, Cal, I think you've seen it a few times in the footage so far, he'll like hold his sabers to the side and he'll slow down time and he'll instantly counter anything that comes in.
Hmm.
And that's like, I didn't realize that's what it did before. Like in the trailers, it wasn't clear what was unique about it, but it's just like it's easily my favorite of the new stances that we've seen so far.
So the stances feel really different from each other.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't like Blaster. They've been really, really cagey about. They will not talk about Blaster. But Crossguard feels like a really heavy variant, I guess, if I were to describe it from what we've seen so far. Whereas just Dual Saber's just like blades flying everywhere, super fast, super hectic, just really cool.
I don't think they saw us. Let's move.
The world looks really linear. Did you feel like you were like walking through a level the whole time, or did it feel more like open exploration?
It's it's kind of hard to say because watching this footage just kind of says to me, "Wow, I missed a lot in my preview."
Okay.
Like this is a whole section that I didn't see at all. So I guess when you get to a specific area, maybe it's like, okay, now you're going forward and you find this bit, but you have to find what you're looking for, right?
Raiders don't like the imps
And I
anymore.
feel like as well, it's when I played, I got to this one section where I found like a cosmetic or something, and I was convinced it was the main path, and I was just stuck for like a good 20 minutes because I just like it was like so open that I didn't know where to go necessarily. I hadn't looked around enough, so I feel like maybe that's just the footage that they've chosen, but it doesn't feel linear at all. Like it feels like a hub world.
Find something.
I'm
Cool.
not sure if this is in the B-roll specifically, but
Hurry up, buddy.
towards the end of the preview, they're like, okay, you've done a few side missions, you've done like the main story missions here. Now you can do farming. Now you can go and purchase stuff in a shop. Now you can go do all this stuff. Like, definitely side stuff, like not important to the main story, but it kind of feels like they've gone all out on Kobo. And we haven't seen like I've been following all the trailers. Like I'm really excited for Survivor, and we haven't seen like really anything besides Kobo, as far as I can tell. Like we've seen story cutscenes, we've seen glimpses of other worlds, but I couldn't tell you a single other one that's in it besides Kobo.
Right, and we haven't even seen a lot of the characters from the first game either.
No, no, we've seen briefly Merrin in a trailer, and we know she'll fight alongside you. And Grease was actually in my preview. I saw a little bit of him. Um, and the embargo is quite strict, so I can't really talk about much of the cutscenes, but I can say that it definitely feels like a darker story than the first. So the first, I don't know, Cal's like kind of like a dorky, light of life Jedi, right? It's like, oh, I see the good in everything, I'll protect my
Yeah.
friends. You know, like some serious Kingdom Hearts Sora vibes, that's why I love him.
Yeah.
And then in this one, he's like tired, he's beat down, like he's not sure what he's doing with his life. It's, you know, I shouldn't be like grinning and smiling at, at that happening, but it's just so much more interesting, right? Like it definitely feels like they're gonna tell a more interesting story here. And there's stuff I can't talk about, and it's really annoying because I want to, but that's definitely like for me, that's the sticking point, right? For me, from what I played, it's Jedi Fallen Order, but anything you can think of improved. It's just the story that needs to stick the landing.
This is what we're seeing right now. This is new. This like Jedi mind control of wildlife, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I believe there's two brand new Jedi Force powers. So there's Confuse, which is where you turn someone to your side, and there's this like you can see it at the bottom of the HUD. There's like a freeze time thing that builds up over time. So like you just freeze everyone around you, you just get like a few instant kills. The freeze one is really cool. You use that quite a lot. Like that was actually helpful. Confuse, I didn't really use. I was like, you know, am I really gonna like? I love the combat. Why am I gonna make someone else do it for me? You know, I'm sure it'd be more helpful as you go along, but I didn't notice that one as much. But force pull and force push, they've seen like improvements as well. So they kind of went, you know, they were kind of useless in the original game, as far as I remember. Like I can't remember a single time I've gone, wow, force push, that really helped me out besides puzzles. But now you can
Yeah,
do this
yeah.
thing like you can pull everyone towards you, you can launch people off cliffs. Like they've really designed it around that now, instead of just having it be something that Cal does because he's a Jedi and it's a Star Wars game, you know?
Yeah. There's so much stuff in this footage that emphasizes like making friends with animals. Like we saw this one, and then I think in a minute there's like a little wolf dog thingy that he like can pet, and you can like fight alongside them. But also like if a little chicken guy looks at you the wrong way, you chop him in half. There's this really weird like push and pull of like his relationship with wildlife.
That's the Jedi way. You just swing first, ask questions later, you know? But that is another power. I hesitate to call it a power because it's very
It's a
circumstantial. But
mechanic.
yeah, yeah, it's a mechanic. Like it's not something you go, okay, I'm going to use the tame ability now. But when you run into a creature that the story says you can tame it. And that was a Neko mount, so you use them to run around a bit. And there's another one that I can't remember the name of, but you use it as like a glider.
Right.
It's a lot
Yeah,
more
we're gonna see that
situational. Like
too.
yeah, like you've seen it. It's been in the trailers, but when I first saw it, I was like, oh wow, you can use that anywhere, right? Like no, it's a lot more situational than that. And right now we're seeing something that I completely missed as well, just to really show you how big Kobo is. This is like a whole other mission that I didn't see.
Yeah,
We
I
have
can't
to
believe
go
this
for
is
it.
all one planet.
Yeah, it's really cool. It does make me not concerned, but I guess I'm curious to see how the rest of the planets shape out. You know, like
Is there any idea how many there will be?
no clue, no clue
Okay.
at all.
It could just be this one.
No, there's mention of other ones, and we've seen other ones in trailers, so we know they're there. But from what I've seen so far, I imagine this is the big one. This is the hub. This is your
Yeah.
like main base. This is even like where Cal would call home, I guess.
Okay.
And then the others will maybe be like linear set pieces. That's my
Interesting.
impression. Like I have no clue. They've been
Right.
really like the whole of Survivor's marketing and release schedule's been bizarre. Like it was just like, hey, this is coming out in 4 months. Enjoy. Like I like that. That's good, but it means we know so little about the game. I mean, look at it. Like this is stuff I have no idea where on Kobo this is. This is all completely alien to me.
Yeah, it's really massive.
Yeah.
So another criticism I had of the first one that you already touched on was that a lot of the reward for exploration
Mm.
was pretty much just ponchos
Yes.
or lightsaber parts that you can never see anyway.
Yeah.
And I never felt like, other than the drive to complete, I never really felt rewarded for like solving puzzles or like looking around. Do you feel like that's something that's been improved here?
That's probably the thing that's been improved the most,
Hmm.
I would say. Instantly, like they've talked about customization before. Respawn has. They've been like, oh, we've dived into it. Like we've remade it. Like this is so much better. Um, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Okay, there won't be ponchos. I get it. And then I go in the menu first thing I can, and it's like, wow, there's like 20 options, like per part of Cal's body you can change. And people are kind of like, they've shared some gameplay clips now, and people are really memeing it. Like some of them are like
Yeah, we're
really
looking at
bad.
that. We're
But you can give
looking
them
at
a
that
mullet.
right now. I
Yeah, you will see that
I
now.
I
See that,
don't
buddy?
care
Guaranteed
about
free
changing
shipping.
Cal's haircut,
That's
but
right. Shop these
you
items
probably
online
do,
today.
don't you?
Yeah, I admit I am biased here because I fancy Cal and Cameron Monaghan a lot, but honestly, I feel like it's a lot of the stuff that Respawn is introduced. It's like I wasn't really asking for a really detailed customization options for Cal, right? Like it's just a nice thing to have. It feels like Respawn went, okay, we have really solid foundations. Like people enjoyed Fallen Order for what it was. A lot of the complaints were around like everything away from the main game experience, and it feels like they've gone, okay, well, here's like a million things you can do in each element, you know?
Yeah. My fear with AAA sequels is always adding for the sake of adding, and I feel like a lot of my criticisms about like God of War Ragnarok, for
Mm,
instance, was that it's a much bigger game, but not necessarily for the best. It
right.
just felt like they had to add more stuff, and the customization here feels a little bit like that, though at the same time, like that was what was criticized about the original one,
Mm.
so it makes sense that they wanted to improve it. The thing I saw from your footage here that I'm dubious about is this farming stuff. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so farming was something I didn't touch at all. It came like right at the end of my preview.
Hmm.
I have seen the footage of it, and it's a bit deeper than just hey, here's farming for the sake of it. It's actually a callback to the first game where you collect seeds for Grease in the Mantis. Like it's like a kind of reference to that. Uh, Personally, this sort of stuff always makes me
Can't wait to
fall
see that
asleep
one.
straight away. When it's in a game, I will not be touching this unless I
What is
have
it
to.
for?
I have no clue.
Okay.
For fun, I guess. Like it's maybe that's enough. Maybe that
For
is enough. But
decoration?
yeah, yeah. Like Kobo is, from what I can tell so far, Kobo is like a home world. It's the hub, so you can kind of just mess around with it a little bit. This is the one thing out of all the stuff that they've introduced that I just don't really have any thoughts on. Like I just think
Uh-huh.
it's there. If you like it, cool. If like me, you don't, then you can ignore it, right? I think that's the distinction between this and Ragnarok, for example. Because I did think of Ragnarok while playing. Actually, funny you mention. With Ragnarok, it was like all of the side content they introduced, they were bashing you over the head with it every chance they got. You had
Right.
characters saying, "Yeah, this important character's just died, but please make sure you go see the side content. We worked hard on it." And
Yeah.
it sucks. No one wanted that. Like it was invasive. It slowed down the whole game really. Whereas in Survivor, it's like I didn't feel like, oh, I have to go do farming now. Oh, I have to customize Cal. It was just there if you wanted to.
Right.
I don't know if that makes it better. I don't know if that's it might still end up feeling kind of bloated, but to me it felt like just additional stuff you could do if you were really into Jedi.
Yeah. And like I hesitate to be like, no, a game should be like laser focused on combat and exploration. Like it's interesting, if nothing else, that they added this weird decoration farming thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And if that's the extent of the bloat, I wouldn't even necessarily call it bloat. I do get concerned when I see these AAA games with like crazy budgets, adding a bunch of stuff nobody cares about just because they have to add something and they don't have a better idea than give them a different beard and plant some trees.
Yeah, no,
But,
I
we'll see.
agree. If it ends up, I guess this is the sort of thing I couldn't gauge from a preview. If it ends up interrupting more of the main quest, if it ends up being, kind of a slog, then it will be a complaint. But for the preview, I mean, it was only 4 hours. It was like the
Yeah.
start of the game, so it's impossible to tell right now. But it didn't feel interruptive at all. It felt like a lot of it felt like iterating on Fallen Order. So like when they introduced, like right at the end of Fallen Order, you can choose your lightsaber color. That was awesome, great moment. Now you can do it basically from the start, and
Mhm.
that's what it sort of felt like. It felt like, okay, we know everyone wants to customize their lightsaber. They want to choose the color. They want to give it a detailed grip. Well, some people do, I guess. And now they've gone, okay, maybe that can apply to Cal as well. And that's what it feels like, just taking stuff from the first and iterating on it a little bit, making it more of a mechanic than just like a little side mission.
That's all for Star Wars Jedi Survivor today. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out the full preview link down in the description. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's the gamer, no spaces.